The Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They prize support UK and Irish racing the night before.
Hello and welcome to this Racing Postcast. As it's a Monday, we'll be looking back at the best of the weekend action and ahead to the week in store, and what a week it promises to be. OMG, I don't say that very often and I probably won't say it again. My name's Rob Watson. I've been joined by Tom Siegel of Pricewise, Nick Watts, and from our sponsors, Paddy Power, Tom Nugent. So there's a few Toms knocking around. I'll do my best not to mistake you both. Let's make a start. I'm going to come to you first, Tom Siegel. What did you make of Quiet Reflection on Saturday? Do you think she'll be crowned champion sprinter?
No, but I thought she was very good. I think Mecca's Angel is. I think the point about that goes to enhance how good she is. I think she's a superstar filly, and I think if she was trained by a Stout or a Gosden or whatever, we'd be talking about her as one of the greatest sprinters in our generation, Rob.
Can I just interrupt you, Tom, because you cut out when you mentioned the name who could be one of the greatest sprinters of all time. What was it?
It's Mecca's Angel. I think the form, all the form ties into her being a superstar. Like, we shouldn't take anything away from Quiet Reflection. She was really good on Saturday. You know, Haydock suits her perfectly. I don't think she ran to form at Ascot, and I don't think she ran to form at in Newmarket either afterwards in the July Cup. But I think, you know, bit of cut in the ground at Haydock. She's very, very good.
Tom, I'm going to come to you now. This is a bit of a hypothetical question, but if Quiet Reflection, Limato and Mecca's Angel met in the Abbey, given perfect ground, who do you think would win?
Define perfect ground now.
They like different grounds between them, don't they? Limato can't have it soft, whereas the other two seem to prefer it with a bit of give. Yeah, so let's call it good going.
Okay, good going. Well, I thought Limato did run a cracker in behind the last day on ground that wasn't ideal, but Mecca's Angel for me is the one. It looked incredible the last day, and I think if she can win again in the autumn, she'd be very hard to overlook for champion sprinter.
She's your favourite for the Abbey, I take it. Have you got any markets there?
Yeah, I can pull it up here now. 1 second.
What about you, Watsy? Are you a Mecca's Angel man or a Quiet Reflection?
No, it's all about Mecca's Angel for me. Fantastic. She, like you said, she was good at the weekend, Quiet Reflection, but the cards fell for her a little bit, didn't they, with the rain and Limato coming out and that kind of thing.
It did look a great spectacle, did it? It looked like we were watching something in the end of January or something. The way that the rain came and Limato was pulled out. I found it all slightly disappointing, Tom. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. I would say that the two sort of standout horses came to the fore. The two horses with more upside were the ones that dominated the finish. So I think we got the right result. But I get where you're coming at. I think, you know, on a good ground, it would have been a different race entirely. But as it turned out, Quiet Reflection beating the Tin Man was perfectly legitimate way the race turned out. So I don't think the ground conditions made that much difference. I think they're both good sprinters going forward. But I'm a Mecca's Angel man through and through. All of which, Tom, should have given you enough time to get the Abbey prices up.
Absolutely, you're very good.
How did I do? That was good, wasn't it?
You're very good at giving me time there. I didn't know when
feeling.
you were going to finish. You were on a roll. I just didn't want to interrupt. It was a thing of beauty. Mecca's Angel 5-4, clear fab for the Abbey, and it's 8-1 bar profitable in at 8s. So that's a fairly clear indication of what the traders think.
Nick, 5-4. Does that float your boat?
Yeah. 5-4, no, not massively. I'd prefer to play at bigger prices than that, really. But yeah, you can see where they're coming from.
Are you a bit surprised, Nick, that Quiet Reflection isn't going for the Abbey?
No, I think the natural race for her would be the Ascot one, particularly as there's normally a bit of give in the ground by the time Champions Day comes around. So that seems the obvious place for her to go. I would agree with Tom. Her best two performances this season for me have both come at Haydock. In the Sandy Lane, she was very good, and then obviously at the weekend at Ascot, she kind of struggled a little bit and might not have won if Catchy had, stayed straight instead of swerving over to the stand side. So I wouldn't necessarily be all for her if she ran at Ascot. There might be a couple in there, particularly the Tin Man reopposing again. You could maybe do her, So I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion should she go there that she wins.
Okay. Well, Nick, I'm going to stick with you because I'm going to ask you what else impressed you over the weekend. We had the likes of Frontispiece at Ascot, which is a name I can't quite understand, Frankus and Hathel at Haydock, and Arab Spring, the last line at Kempton. Any of those?
There wasn't anything particularly at Haydock that we haven't already discussed because I think the ground made it particularly it was born to be taken a little bit on the day rather than with any greater meaning, I think, because of the ground conditions and the amount of rain that fell. There's one down at Ascot. If you want an eye catcher, if you like, rather than one of the winners, there was a horse in the race. I think, Tom, you tipped the winner of it, New Caledonia, Stargazer, who's back in fourth. I wouldn't say it was unlucky. It didn't get close enough, I think, to say, would have won with a clear run or anything like that. But it did get messed around a bit on the home bend. Ryan Moore found every bit of, every blind alley going up the home straight. And I think Stargazer remains quite a well-handicapped horse, and he's one to keep on side, I think, for the autumn, definitely.
Okay, and Tom Siegel, what about you over the weekend? Anything?
Yeah, I had a couple written down. I had Stargazer written down like Nick. He was obviously an eye catcher. The problem with him is he's too obvious now, isn't he? Everyone's going to be on him. He's going to be a short price everywhere he goes. Ryan got in a bit of a mess, but I wouldn't take anything away from New Caledonia. That was only his third run of the season. He's going to improve. I also have to mention my old friend Firmament in the 7 furlong handicap there. I thought he was unlucky too. I mean, I think if he'd have got out, he would have won. I think he might be going for the Cambridgeshire, and he's definitely a horse to consider for the Cambridgeshire. I'm slightly worried that it might be a bit too quick. 9 furlongs on a straight track can be quite tough for those horses. You tend to want a 10 furlong horse to win the Cambridgeshire. So whether he stays well enough, I don't know. But I think he's next year's So Beloved, if you want, for David O'Meara. I think he's a group horse, no trouble about that. And down at Kempton, I think sort of got overlooked with all the racing going on was the London Mile final, and I thought Afjan was really good. I thought he had to make up a lot. I think they probably went too fast, and it set it up for him coming home late on. But I think he's a progressive, good horse who'll take a step forward again. So I thought Afjan would be one I would be interested in next time.
Well, now fourth in that race was your Cambridgeshire fancy, wasn't it, Domerson? He ran okay, didn't he? I thought
he ran okay. I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, because like I say, the sort of cut, they went too fast, didn't they? They set it up for the closers, and Domerson was out the back, but he did miss the break. He did get stuck on the inside. The race came up the outside. I still think it's not all over for him in the Cambridgeshire, but I have to admit I was expecting a bit more on Saturday.
Tom Nugent, what about you?
Very briefly, I thought Robin and Avon up and trip again. He's becoming a little bit of a cliff horse for me now in the last 3 runs, but I'd give him another chance if they step him up a little bit more. I thought he was good in behind Arab Spring.
So you thinking the St. Ledger for him next week?
Well, I hope so. We're waiting for 5-day decks to come through, but you never know.
He's out of it.
Oh, is he gone?
He's gone,
so,
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bad luck, Tom. Nice try.
Well, we'll get him next time.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP Fav at one meeting every day this month. Paddy Power, you're welcome. Max free bet £25, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
Now, let's look ahead to the racing this week. There's all sorts kicking off in Britain and Ireland. And on Sunday, of course, we have the art trials as well. Let's start at Doncaster, though. Tom Nugent, do you have a list of the ledger prices there to hand?
I do indeed. Idaho in at the top at 4-5. Muntaha next in at 9-2. Red Verdon 7-1. Houses of Parliament 9-1. Sword Fighter at 14s, and that's 20-1 bar those.
And what's your particular fancy in the race?
There was a very common theme, I thought, in the Monday jury in today's Racing Post, that everyone seemed to think Idaho was going to win, but Red Verdon was an each-way alternative, and I'd actually tend to go along in that. I thought it was a good run in the Grand Prix de Paris, and he has improved no end this year. Think of his first run back in April, he was rated 76. He's now up to a rating of 114. Yeah, I think he could go well.
Tom, you'll be looking at this race in greater detail later in the week, obviously. Where do you start with an odds-on favourite in Idaho who looks pretty bomb-proof?
Well, you start by taking him on, don't you? Because he's odds-on favourite. And, I love the horse. I backed him for the Derby. I thought he ran a great race. I was slightly surprised how well he stayed at York last time. But, there's been rain around. I think we're going to get a nice week, perhaps, up there. But I think there could be rain on Friday, Saturday. It's already soft up there. So, a 1.6 miles on soft ground, I don't want to be backing anything at 4-5 or whatever price it is. Muntaha was a bit disappointed with him at Chester. I think he wants better ground. Red Verdon, I agree with Tom there. He'll like any cut in the ground. I think he's crying out for a step up in trip. He's got form in the derbies and stuff. He wasn't far behind Idaho in Ireland or at Epsom. He's probably got 5 lengths to make up on soft ground at 1.6 miles. He could maybe do that, but it's not the greatest ledger we've ever seen. And I think while Idaho is the one to beat, there's some. It's not a foregone conclusion.
You mentioned over the weekend that Wings of Desire's not taking part either. Would that have been one that caught your eye or not?
I'd be worried about him at the trip. When John Gosden's dropping him back and trip from 1.5 miles to the 10 furlongs and saying I've no worries about him over 10 furlongs, you'd be worried about him at a mile and a quarter, mile and 6 on soft ground.
Mm-hmm. OK, so I'm going to stick with you because I'm going to look ahead to the rest of Doncaster and ask if there's anything else that's running in the week that particularly that you fancy. Particularly, we've got the likes of the Park Hill Stakes and the Doncaster Cup.
Well, I always think that Doncaster is obviously the Ledge is the main race, but the 2-year-old races are the races that interest me most of all, and I'll be interested to see the Champagne Stakes. It's always a race I like. I don't know who Aidan's going to run. I'm wondering whether Order Cree might run. I think Churchill will probably stay at home. Capri's over for him. I'm a big fan of Aidan O'Brien's horse called Capri. Not named after the car of the 1980s, but probably named after the holiday resort, Holiday Island in Italy, I would imagine, judging by the connections. I like him. I think he's a good horse going forward. I'm interested to see where he runs. But for me, it's all about the 2-year-old races at Doncaster, and that race in particular is the one I'm most looking forward to.
OK, and Tom, what are you betting on during the week at Donny? Have you got any prices for anything? Have you got the prices for the Doncaster Cup, for example?
Yeah, I have that here. So it's Mizu at 5-2, a Clever Cookie 9-2 alongside Clondal Warrior, Quest for More at 11-2, Trip to Paris 13-2, Shakes Isle Road 9-1, and 10-1 Bar.
Nick, what do you reckon?
Doncaster Cup?
Yeah. Your type of race?
Yeah, no, I love the staying events on the flat as a jumping man through and through. These staying races, they're the closest you can get to a slice of the jumps action. I prefer them to sprint handicaps. I was a big fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm a couple of starts ago. I can forgive the Goodwood run, but I'm not quite sure what happened at York last time. Very disappointing there. He won the Mallard last year, didn't he? So if he could come back to his best, I'd give him a chance. But he does need a dry week, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm with you. I backed him for the Ascot Gold Cup, believing that he was a progressive, strong stayer. But the last 2 runs have been terrible. I tell you, I'm slightly interested in if Sir Mark Prescott runs Saint Michel or Saint Michel or whatever they call it, the See the Stars horse, who the 3-year-old who won at Goodwood last time, beating Oriental Fox. He's dangerous in this time of race. I remember him winning it I remember doing a price-wise many moons ago, when Alleluia winning it at around, I think the bookies priced up around 8-1 in the morning. I think it was rated about 75 or 80 at the time, and I remember writing it's the worst price in history, only to see it win by 5 lengths and look great. And so he won it last year with Palisator. It'd be interesting if the 3-year-old ran in there, because I don't know if you agree, Nick, but 3-year-olds and at this time of the year staying trips, I think they get too much weight, and he'll be in there off the bottom. There's another one of Michael Bell's in there, Purple Magic. I do think they get too much weight. They're getting stone off these older horses. And while they're very solid, good horses, they're not brilliant, are they? Your Mizus and your Curb Your Enthusiasms and your Clondal Warriors. I'd be interested in 3-year-olds. Got plenty to find on the book, but I think they could make the jump. Yeah,
and he won with a ton in hand at Goodwood last week. I watched the end of that race, and he swerved quite violently towards the stand side. But once Luke Morris straightened him up, he was well on top. And I think Prescott's talking about the Cesarewitch, isn't he? But he wants to go to the Doncaster Cup first, so I think he's a pretty definite runner. And like you said, with the weight, I do agree with you about the 2-year-olds. I'm really looking forward to the Flying Childers, and I hope Mark Johnston runs Yalta. Yeah. He made a massive impression on me at Goodwood, and I thought he could make a bit of a splash in the Nunthorpe, but maybe he was just drawn out of it. He couldn't get to the front, and he never made any show at all. And to be fair, he's probably biting off more than he could chew there. But back amongst the 2-year-olds, form's been franked by the last line, winning at Kempton at the weekend. Love to see Yalta come back, and as we know, Johnston's never afraid of running them after a poor run.
And I agree with you entirely. And also, Johnson at York, Nick, I mean, you and I would know that its horses tend to run appallingly there for some unknown reason. I mean, we saw that with Kilmar at Goodwood the other week, didn't we, in the Prestige Stakes. She was last at York, came back and won the Prestige. I mean, Yalta was last in the Nunthorpe. Wouldn't at all be surprised to see him bounce back.
Tom, just going back to the Doncaster Cup there, the other Tom mentioned Saint Michael, is it Saint Michel?
We'll go with Saint Michel. We'll give it a more of a European feel. They're 16-1 Saint Michel. Purple Magic is 16-1, and Curb Your Enthusiasm mentioned there as well, 12s.
What's the favourite there, Tom?
Mizu 5-2.
Mizu, yeah.
Can I throw one in as well? What about Simple...
No, stop.
What about Simple Verse? Why are they persevering with her? She doesn't seem to have shown any form this season at all yet. I see she's priced up for quite a few races this weekend.
I'm a bit sick of her. I mean, to be honest, Rob, I've sort of been with her the last couple of times thinking that she'll run well, and she showed nothing at Ascot. And the vibes, I mean, there was a few bit of money around for her early on, but I'll tell you another horse to watch out for that race, though. I mean, I did the the Cesarewitch anti-post feature the other day, and Sweet Selection, I thought, was a horse that would run well in the Cesarewitch. I noticed she's jocked up in the Doncaster Cup off a mark of 87. Now, Huey Morrison's not the type of guy that would normally run a 4-year-old filly in a race like that off a mark of 87. He must think that she's improving. I think there was excuses for her at York last time. She finished really well. What do you think? Strange race to run her in?
Yeah, no, it would be, wouldn't it? But yeah, because of the trainer, it kind of makes your ears prick up a little bit, doesn't it? Definitely. And I'll throw in one for the Mallard as well while we're going through Doncaster still. Desert Encounter. David Simcock's horse already jocked up with Jamie Spencer. I think he's got a very good chance in the Mallard. Third last time at, I think it was Haydock, where it wasn't quite run to suit and you had to come through horses and didn't quite get there. But yeah, there's more to come from that horse. So they're my Doncaster ones anyway.
Okay, Tom Nugent, give us a price for Secret Selection and also give us a fancy at Doncaster from yourself.
A price for Secret Selection.
Sweet Selection,
sorry, is the 66 to 1 outsider.
66 to 1.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is not one for you to say on the front of the website. Tom Siegel fancies a 66 to 1 shot, Rob. I think I'm just interested in the Cesarewitch, so I'm interested that he's running there, and I think you'd be interested to see how she goes. If she's not disgraced, she could be. You could be looking at a well handicapped. Well, I think she is a well handicapped horse of 87, but whether she'll get in the Cesarewitch, I don't know.
I was interested from a purely personal point of view.
Okay, well that's all right then.
Anyway, Tom, cool. We haven't heard from you on your Doncaster fancy.
No major fancy for me at the moment. The one I will be watching very closely, Clondalk Wire in the Doncaster Cup needs to win or be touched off by one of the Classy Oaks to get into the Melbourne Cup. So he'll be revved up for a very, very big tilt at the Doncaster Cup this week. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP Fav at one meeting every day this month. Paddy Power, you're welcome. Max free bet £25, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
Okay, let's move on to Ireland then. It's fascinating racing in Ireland this week. Tom Nugent, can you give us a market for the Irish Champion Stakes and also your own particular fancy?
Can indeed. Minding is at the top 7 to 4. Harzan next in at 11 to 4. Almanzar 6 to 1. Fascinating Rock 7 to 1. Found and Highland Reel at 8, and it's 12 to 1 bar. And I'll be very, very boring and say Minding is going to win.
Minding, that is very boring. Tom, what do you think?
Don't know, really. It's a tricky one. I mean, I don't think Harzan's going to run, from what I gather. I think he might be going to the Niel on the same day. Is it same day or the following day? To run in one of the ARC trials.
The Sunday, I think.
Yeah, the Sunday. I mean, did you say he was second favourite in there? Yeah, if he doesn't
11
run,
to 4.
then it makes it, Minding's going to be hard to beat. But I do think the French Derby winner, the unbeaten French Derby winner, is sort of an unknown horse, Almanzor, isn't he, Nick? I mean, not unbeaten. But his last 3 races, he's won. He's funny thing. He's by Wootton Bassett. You wouldn't expect him to be a mile and a quarter horse, but he won the French Derby really easily, and I think he won't mind soft or fast ground. Don't know how good he is. I think as an alternative to Minding, he would be the one. But it's hard to beat Aidan O'Brien on his home turf.
I think Almanzor might have entries elsewhere as well during the weekend.
I think he's going for this race though. I don't think I think he thinks he's a mile and a quarter horse. You see, and so I don't think there's a race for him on. But you don't know. I can't be sure of that.
Speaking of which, of course, Minding's also in the Matron Stakes, but we're pretty sure that she's going to come to this, aren't we?
Looks that way, yes.
Mm-hmm. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, Minding will win. It looks like it might break up a little bit, the race. Minding, with Harzan going to France and, Time Test was ruled out a couple of weeks ago and Fascinating Rock might not go. It all depends on the ground, what's going to, if it's going to be quick or it's going to be soft. I think Mile and 2 is probably Minding's best trip. I think she'll probably win. Yeah, the French horse is interesting. You just worry. I just worry with these French horses coming over. If she may be better at home than she is in Ireland, this is a new experience for her, taking on Minding pretty much on her home patch. So yeah, I'll side with a home win and go for Minding.
Okay, and Tom Nugent, a quick show on the Matron. Have you got one there?
Absolutely. We have Kima in at the top at 6 to 4. Minding is in there now at 7 to 2, second favourite, but drifting. Alice Springs 5 to 1. Nemeralia 6 to 1. Persuasive alongside at 6 to 1. Jet Setting at 7 to 1. Somehow 8 and 12 to 1 bar those.
Nick, Jet Setting 7 to 1. Been good to see her come back, won't it?
I'll be all right, yeah. No,
You're not a fan? You don't like
nothing
these
amazing? Yeah, no.
rags to riches stories?
Well,
Oh, you heartless soul.
No, it's all right, but, you know...
Measured, I would say, just measured character. Wouldn't get carried away with it.
caught minding an on and off day, and, you know, hasn't, you know, set the world alight since then. If I was going for one in this, I'd go for Nemeralia, but I can't work out with Nemeralia whether she's just a Group 1 winner waiting to happen or whether she needs to come back in grade, and that's when she looks really good. It's what happened last time at York. She came back, I think, into Group 3 company and looked amazing. I don't know whether if she stepped up into Group 1 again, she'll be found wanting. I can't quite make my mind up with the horse. She looks brilliant when she's in like Group 2s, Group 3s, but...
You'd take that risk, though, Nick, at 6-1.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I think Nemeralia is interesting. I think I think some of us are all, me especially, have been a bit too harsh on her. Now, next time, every time I look at her, I think, oh, you're right. Does she really agree? And then I look at the Coronation Stakes form and sort of think, you know, well, softish ground there. She's better on fast ground. She did have Alice Springs behind her. She did have, you know, Jet Setting behind her. You know, just because she was beaten by a really good filly in Kumar, she must have a chance. She must have a chance in this race. There's a couple in there though, that unbeaten fillies that I don't know if they're. I mean, Persuasive is interesting. That she was really impressive at Ascot and again at Sandown. Now, obviously, she has to take a step up, but she's never been beaten, so we don't know how good she is. And also, Dermot Wales filly Rose de Pierre. I was keen on her earlier in the season. I think we did one of these, and she was my sort of horse to follow. I thought she was, you know, she could be very good as well. She beat some older male horses in a listed race at Cork last time we saw her. That's quite hard to do for a 3-year-old filly, and you know, I'd be interested in the two of them against the ones we know something about already.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what? We could go on forever here. We haven't even mentioned the Irish St. Ledger. Tom, give us a market on this.
So in at the top is Order of St. George, now 1-3, Bondi Beach 7-1, Big Orange 9-1, Simple Verse, Max Dynamite at 12s, Sword Fighter, and Port Douglas at 16-1. It's 20-1 bar.
Any mileage in this, Nick?
Not much to be said. I think Order of St. George is a class apart in the stairs at the moment. You know, he could be as good as Yates, I think, in my opinion. I just think he's a great horse. Love him. Just want to see him win and win nicely, and hopefully go to the Arc, where we'll see him, you know, have a proper test.
Mm-hmm. What about the two Toms? Any views on this Irish St. Ledger?
No.
Big Orange without, if you really need to have a bet, maybe.
Okay. If someone wanted to back a horse before the Arc trials, which horse would you put forward? Nick, I'm going to come to you because you mentioned Order of St. George. Let's call the Irish St. Ledger an Arc trial. Is that a horse you'd be recommending for the Arc, perhaps?
He's the one I've recommended all summer, so I'm not going to change my tune now. He's not going to go to Australia, apparently. We learned that in the news last week. So in the hope that an expectation that he wins easily on Saturday or Sunday, whichever day it is, he's going to need something to do in the autumn, isn't he? And so the Arc seems like the perfect race for him, for me, or at least to give him a try in it. You can always, even if he fails and he comes back next year and is a stayer again, it doesn't matter, you know. At least give him a go. I think he's worth a try over 1.5 miles in top company.
Okay, Tom Nugent, can you give us the Arc prices and your own advice?
I can indeed, yeah. Postponed alongside Harzand in at the top of 4-1, Minding 7-1, La Cressonnier at 8-1, Makahiki 10s, Found and Almanzar alongside Order St. George at 12-1 and at 16-1 bar.
If someone asked you who to back in the Arc before the trials, who would you say?
Harzand.
Tom Siegel, what about you?
Rob, I think I'm losing you. I can't hear you at this stage. I've got to do the anti-post price-wise for the race this very afternoon. You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Oh, yeah, okay. Point taken. Fair enough. Before we go, we had the Paul Nicholls Owners' Day over the weekend. Give us one to follow for the coming season over jumps from his stable or beyond. Tom, I'm sure you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can do this one. Well, I'm a big Dan Skelton fan. Not only can his family win Olympic gold medals, I think he's the up-and-coming force in training, in the training ranks. I'm a big fan of all his handicap hurdlers from last year. Chitibello is one I'm very interested in. I still think he's well handicapped of 144. I don't know if he goes chasing or not. I think he wants good ground, but he's a fast horse, and I think he can win lots of good races. So it's CH''TIBELLO. Won the Scottish, as you well know, Rob.
Indeed.
He won the Scottish champion hurdle last year.
That's the one, yes. What do you think about odds of 66-1? I saw that Paul Nicholls was recommending people back Dan Skelton for the Trainers' Championship. You think he's got a point?
I think he'll struggle to win the Trainers' Championship because I don't think he's got any. He's got too many Grade 1 horses, but I do think he is going to be the biggest challenger to Paul Nicholls in the years to come forward, you know, for many years now. I think he's a real coming force, and I think he's going to get there. I'm not sure this year's the right year for him.
Yeah, Paul.
But then people told me to back Jim Crowley for the flat jockeys title, and I laughed at them too. So what do I know?
Tom Nugent, give us a jumper to follow.
Well, just from Ditchy, speaking to Harry Derham there just before Cheltenham last year, all he wanted to talk about was Diego de Charmel. Hard enough for those juveniles to train on, but they just really thought he was very, very special. And then this is a bit off piste now. It's a bit of a niche one, but there's a horse that ran in an Irish point-to-point over here called Manila Sweet, who ran for John Nallen, has gone over to Rose Dobbin via the sales. Was touched off by a good horse in Nicky Henderson's called Baden in that point-to-point, and apparently could win races this year. So that's Manila Sweet.
I'm running out of lead in my pencil here. Nick, what about you?
Fit off. You're not that old.
Believe me, I am.
I got one, a novice chaser to follow, Millshawn, horse of Willie Mullins, has missed all of last season through injury, but was second in the Albert Bartlett the time before. Probably got the 4-miler on its agenda already, and a huge horse, should like chasing. Loves soft ground. Follow it all the winter.
Okay, Millshawn for Nick. Well, thank you for that, chaps. Thank you to the two Toms, and thank you to Nick. Do join us again on Friday. We'll be taking a closer look at what promises to be a magnificent weekend.
The Racing Postcast, in association with Paddy Power, they prize support UK and Irish racing the night before.